Welcome to a special episode of Game of Roses. I'm going to be going through everything that just happened at the end of Perfect Match and what are the gigantic problems that this game has in terms of its game mechanics. Now, an Instagram reel came out today from Hahn. He was in Perfect Match Season 2, which I think was a great season. And I mean to take nothing away from Perfect Match. I think it is a fantastic show and really the reason that we don't need Bachelor in Paradise anymore, but we'll get into that in a second. I wanted to play this video quickly, this reel, because it illustrates what I think is one of the biggest problems with the show in the game mechanics. So let's listen to Chris explain how the end came about and why that happened.
Probably wondering how the hell did Nigel and Christine win Perfect Match? Because obviously Tolu and I should have won. I mean, clearly, I think everyone knows that. Anyone can agree with that. So what happens is every single cast member on the show gets a vote. If you were in the house, if you're outside of the house, doesn't matter. So we all know that there can only be 10 people in that house at one time. So the people outside of the house, the ones that didn't really get in the house that much, they either got kicked off or they didn't really come in because they got the boot, because they didn't influence the other date to match with them. What they did was they made a little treaty. They made a little deal. They made the treaty that if one person from this group, from the outside house group, gets into the finale with one of the final couples, we all will vote for them. Nigel is one, Christine is the other. They didn't really get in the house that much. This is their first time really in the house. They just matched up. They've been on for one episode. Everyone's gonna ask, like, how the hell did they win? Everyone outside of the house during that pact voted for Nigel and Christine to win it. Are they a good couple? Maybe. I think so. Did they deserve to win Perfect Match? Absolutely not. That's the T. So you're probably wondering.
All right, so there we have it. All of the couples who came into the show late basically made a pact to vote for any of themselves who made it into the finals. That is why Nigel and Christine won Perfect Match Season 2, even though they had only been a couple for literally one episode or one iteration of the game round. Now, this problem existed in Bachelor in Paradise as well. It's the idea that you can have an original cast show up in the beginning. Bachelor in Paradise had this. Obviously, Perfect Match has this. And other players will come into the game throughout the season. The later you come into the game, obviously, the worse your odds are going to be to stick around in the game or have any meaningful impact, be able to find somebody that you can match with, etc., etc. And by the way, we should throw out the window at this point that any of these people are actually going on here to find love. I think they are all open to maybe dating someone off this show, but as we now know, Perfect Match Season 2 has yielded 0 couples that have lasted. They are all completely done. And Perfect Match Season 2, it's worth noting, shot about a year ago. So they've all had time to explore those relationships if they wanted to. None of them did. Paradise maybe has a little bit better track record, at least historically. But in the last few seasons of Paradise, which led, unfortunately, to its cancellation by ABC, you saw couples breaking up immediately after the airing of their finale in the final season, Bachelor in Paradise Season 9. You saw exactly that. I believe there were 4 couples who went to kind of an engagement phase. Literally the next day, they all posted their kind of amicable breakup posts on social media. So it starts with this problem, the staggered cast. You have people like, I forget what season it was in Bachelor in Paradise, but Ivan Hall was waiting for Alexa Ray Caves to come down the stairs. She never did. The producers kept her sequestered in her hotel room for the entirety of her stay in Paradise. She never got a second of screen time, never got to touch sand, never got to the beach, never even got the opportunity to talk to any of these people, meet any of them, or make any lasting, impactful plays in the game. The same is now true of Perfect Match. And these players have done something about it. They have identified this game mechanic and agreed to exploit it to their advantage. The producers now have a problem on their hands because this will happen every season. And so the solution to this is don't bring players into the game later. This is my personal belief about how this game mechanic can be corrected to avoid this outcome, which is, I think, lackluster. I think most people who are watching this season really thought that it was going to be Steven and Alara because they had been a couple for the longest with the least amount of problems. Maybe some people were rooting for Kaz and Micah because they had been a long-standing couple who were making big moves in the game. Nonetheless, you have this situation now where a couple who was barely in the show won the whole thing simply because the players who feel that they were wronged by producers for getting no screen time said, we don't like this and we're going to take action. We're going to ruin your show, basically. They can do that every season if these game mechanics are upheld. Now, I think to correct it, what should be done is all players show up on day one. You don't have staggered entries, so the mechanics of the boardroom have to change a little bit. But I also think you could do something like this. This is how I would do it mathematically. I would have an odd number of players show up just on day one, and I would make it so that you don't have to be in a romantic couple necessarily. You just have to be in a partnership, a duo. At the end of any standard round of play, you have to have a partner, whoever that may be. It can be romantic, and that's encouraged, certainly, obviously, on Perfect Match. Doesn't have to be. This also allows you now to have people in the game who are married, who are not single. Also from the Netflix reality universe that they're calling it, the NRU. So you could have people like take Milton and Lydia from Love is Blind season 5, I believe. They're married, so they're not there looking to date, but you could put one of them in there and they can partner up platonically with people. And so every round ends with this. If you're not in a couple, you leave the show. Then all the couples have to play whatever the challenge is. That would be an even number of players once the odd numbered person is exiled. Then the even number players, all again in duos, have to play the challenge. The losing team, whoever gets the worst score, one of them gets eliminated. They have to go head to head against each other in some kind of an elimination challenge. So it pares it down to an odd number again. And then that whole process repeats. That, I think, is how you solve this problem, because we're going to see this, I think, every season from now on. Kudos to the players of Perfect Match Season 2. I love to see unionization plays like this, especially when players usurp power from producers. It's a beautiful thing to watch, but it messes the game up a little bit. So hopefully the producers can get their heads on straight and get ahead of this by the time they shoot Season 3 of Perfect Match, which may be underway sooner than we think. Again, Kinetic rolls out their shows about a year after they get shot. So I think they're shooting a Love is Blind season currently. And once that concludes, the next season of Perfect Match will go into production, and we will see these things air sometime next year. If their current air cycle is anything to be modeled after, Love is Blind usually airs in February, and then we get Perfect Match right around now, sometime in the early summer in June. At any rate, I thought that this was worth mentioning, worth taking a look at, because we haven't really seen anything like this. We've seen some players on Bachelor in Paradise, RIP, do some kinds of things like this where they try to stick around through kind of nefarious methods, or methods that would be considered for the wrong reasons. But here in Perfect Match, these players just demolished the producers. They took complete control of the show and the outcome, and I think it's why a lot of people think the ending of this season of Perfect Match was very lackluster. Nonetheless, thanks for joining me, and we'll be back with more content pretty much every day. Please join us.